everybody, and welcome back to Sunshine and Serenity. And today we are in my kitchen, and it's a little bit messy because we're still getting settled into our new place, and we live here and we cook here, so it's gonna be messy, right? So real life, real talk. But we are in the kitchen today, and we are going to be doing some kitchen work. I've got to get some broth going, some chicken broth going, and I've got to can some sweet potatoes because I have a whole box of sweet potatoes that I have to deal with before they go bad. So I figure I would take y'all along with me on the journey as I work through my kitchen. And if you are new, welcome. We are so glad that you have decided to stop by and take a watch at our videos. If you will take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button, and comment below. Let me know what kind of prep work you are doing to get ready for gardening season, or what you are doing on your homestead or your property, or just what you're doing in your season of life, right? So we're not all in the same season. We're not all on the same page, but that is okay because we each have a journey and a story to tell. So take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. Helps our channel grow, and we would so greatly appreciate it. If you are a regular viewer, welcome back. We are so glad to have you on yet another video. And if you are interested to see the prep work that I'm doing in my kitchen today, some chicken broth and canning some sweet potatoes and that whole process, stick around and I will take you through that journey. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to get going is our chicken broth. So I have some chicken here that I pulled out of the freezer. Now this was like chicken bones and things like that. So I'm going to actually put that into our crock pot. And if you do not have one of these bad boys, let me tell you, it is a lifesaver when you're wanting to do large batches of broth, or if you're rendering down lard, anything like that. That is a lifesaver because I can keep that plugged in, keep it on the setting it needs to, keep my stove and my oven free. It's not heating up my kitchen, and I can make a large quantity of my broth all at one time. So I definitely highly recommend that. It also comes in handy during Thanksgiving and Christmas if you cook turkey or ham. You can do that as well, but if you want to get a lot of use out of just a one-time appliance, I definitely highly suggest doing it for broth. It is like twice the size of my crock pot, and I only have to have one thing going versus several things, or my stovetop. So it is definitely a handy appliance to have if you want to do a lot of broth. So besides our chicken, the other thing I'm going to add to it is some celery and some vegetable odds and ends that I will throw in there, as well as some onion. I'm going to throw some onion in there, and some just various spices like thyme, just those kind of things. We're just going to all dump it in there, fill it up with water, and we are going to let it simmer for at least 24 hours, but I usually let mine go for 48 hours. And I keep it simmering at a low. I usually do about 200 degrees, between 150 and 200 degrees. And I just let it go for several days and let it simmer, and that'll get all that goodness out of those bones and out of that those vegetables, and it'll make for a really healthy stock. So I highly recommend getting one of these so that you can just put it in, turn on the thing, let it go, and you don't have to worry about it. It does take up quite a bit of counter space, so that's the only thing that I'm really losing is the counter space during the time, but I totally will give up some counter space so that I don't have to have my stovetop going, I don't have to heat up my house, and I don't have to have multiple appliances, right? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dump all of this chicken in here. And then I am going to get my celery in there. Now, some of it is chopped up. The other ones I'm just going to have to do a quick chop on so when we get all those put in. But I'm going to put all of this stuff, chop these onions, get everything in here, and then I will show you guys what it looks like when I get it filled with water. Okay, so this is what it all looks like once I got everything in there, and I have to rely a lot more on my herbs that I have dried and like the seasonings and stuff versus actual fresh herbs because we don't have our herbs going in the garden yet. So that's what it looks like before we fill it up with water. Okay, so this is what it looks like now that we've got all the water in it. And so now I'm just going to put the lid on it. I'm going to plug it in, and I'm going to let it sit at 200 degrees for 48 hours. So 2 to 3 days. Sometimes if I have to delay it a day, that's fine. It's not like it's a have to. It's not like it's a have to get it done in 2 days, but that's just generally a rule of thumb. At least 48 hours. Sometimes I may go a little bit longer if I need to. Like if I have a problem with trying to get it canned in time and all of that. Like if I can't can it that very next day, it's fine. I can let it go an extra day. It's not going to hurt it. It's actually just going to make it better the longer you can let it go for. So that is how you get the broth started. And then once it is completely done, I will then at that point, I will can it up. I usually let it sit in the fridge for about 24 hours after I pour it into some jars, just to let the fat accumulate on the top so I can skim it off. And then I will reheat it on my oven or my stovetop. And then at that point, I will pressure can it. And I just, I don't really follow a specific recipe. I just use like usually the ball canning book is what I use, and I just see how much headspace, but I kind of know now how much I need. And then you do have to pressure can it because it is something that is not high in acidity. So you do have to have a pressure can, and you do have to pressure can it to safely be able to can it. But you pressure can it. For me, my pressure it's 11 pounds pressure, or 11 pounds PSI, and it's 90 minutes. So it's 90 minutes to can it up, and then you have chicken broth that you can let sit on your pantry shelf. Have it when you need it for meals. It is one of the healthiest options you can do for chicken broth, and we will never buy store-bought chicken broth now that we make our own. So that is how you do the chicken broth. And then I'm going to get these sweet potatoes canned up, and I'll show you how I do that. Okay, so as you can see, this has turned into a multi-day project, and that was on purpose because my broth has been simmering now for 48 hours, and I do want to make a correction. Earlier when I was talking about the broth, I said 90 minutes. That is not correct. The sweet potatoes are 90 minutes if you do them in quart jars. The broth is 20 or 25 minutes. So I was thinking sweet potatoes when I was talking about the broth, so I mix those things up. So I'm going to pop that on the screen too. That way whoever's watching that part will know, see that correction. But I just want to go ahead and make that correction here as well. So I use the ball canning book. So if you don't have one of those, where's mine? It's over here. If you don't have one of those, that is what I use for most of my canning recipes, is the ball book. And so we're going to be doing both the sweet potatoes and canning the broth today. So the sweet potatoes, if you're doing them into a pint jars, they're 1 hour and 5 minutes, or quart jars are 1 hour and 30 minutes at whatever your pressure is for your elevation. We are at a low elevation, so we pressure can ours at 11 psi. And I have a dial gauge that I read. You can get them with either dial gauges or weighted gauges. If you get the weighted gauges, you can just hear and listen to make sure that you're at the right pressure. I don't trust myself to do that, so I usually try to make sure that I'm in the kitchen doing something else while I'm also reading the dial gauge. So we have got our sweet potatoes right here, and they have been soaking in salted water. So I've tried to remove as much of the stock as possible. I got stock over there. As much of the starch as possible I have tried to remove. And then we're going to get these jarred up, and we're going to get these in the canner. And while these are going in the canner, my broth is still going to be over here simmering. But I'm actually going to peel some more sweet potatoes and get another round of sweet potatoes ready. That way we can just pop them in one right after the other. I can do my sweet potatoes tomorrow if I need to. I usually like to let them soak for a little while, so that way I can keep it going, and that way I can get through this whole box of sweet potatoes before they go bad, and that way I'm staying busy. And if I have to be in the kitchen anyways, might as well do prep work, right? So I wanted to give you guys a quick look at what the broth is looking like. Look at that. Look at how dark that has turned. That is a whole bunch of nutritious goodness. And if you have ever done broth, you know that it just makes your kitchen smell amazing. Like, it smells so good. My husband will walk in and he's like, what is that smell? And I said, I'm doing broth. And he gets all disappointed because there's nothing actually cooking that smells that way. All right, so this is what the sweet potatoes look like. So we're going to get these all jarred up, and then I'll show you once they're jarred. Okay, so this is what my jars look like after I got them filled, and I had a little bit left that wasn't quite enough for a full jar. So I'm going to add those to what I peeled today, and then just use them in some different jars. But that gave me 6 quarts. And I'm doing quarts of sweet potatoes because I like to use my pint jars for things like other vegetables that I won't cook, in large quantities, like our corn or, our green beans, our carrots, things like that, that not everybody will eat. And then that way I'm using my jars. I usually like to use my quart jars for potatoes, chicken and beef stock, salsas, things like that that we use quite a bit of. So that is what they look like when they go into the jars. You do leave an inch of head space, and then now I'm going to fill them with water. I'm going to put the water in my pressure canner, and I'm going to get the lid on it and get it going so it can be getting up to pressure. Okay, so now I've got my lids and rings on those, so now we're just going to put them into the pressure canner. Okay, we got them in the canner, so now we're going to get the lid on it and get it going. Okay, so now I got the lid on this and I've got it going over there. I've got it on about medium high. I will keep this just like this until it starts to vent steam out the top, and then I will let it vent for 10 minutes, and then I will put the weighted gauge on the top just right here. And then I will let it get all the way up to pressure, and then I will keep an eye on it, adjust the temperature as I need to, or the burner as I need to, and process it for 90 minutes. And this is the first time I'm canning on this stove that we just recently moved into a new property for. So I'll be extra vigilant on keeping an eye on it and make sure everything does okay, and that it all goes as it's supposed to. I am going to try to get one of the propane fish burners for the summertime. That way I can can outside and not have to heat up my house, which will be nice. But for now, we're just doing it on the oven, and 90 minutes, and that's what you do for sweet potatoes. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed coming on this ride with me in my kitchen as I'm doing things. I'm going to get these sweet potatoes processed. I'm going to get some more sweet potatoes peeled and cut up to get ready to process. And then I'm also going to process all the broth as well. So if you have any questions about the remainder of the broth canning process, you can either refer to Canning Recipes, the ball book, or I also have a video on my channel called Broth Baby, all about chicken broth. So if you're interested in checking that out, it is on my channel below. But as always, thanks for stopping by, guys. I hope y'all have a wonderful, blessed week. And y'all have a good one. See you, friends. Bye.